The sound of handcuffs clicking shut echoed across the quiet suburban street, and every neighbor froze. No one expected this to happen over a simple HOA dispute. From the very first moment, something felt deeply wrong, and by the end of this story, the truth would shock everyone watching. It started when officers approached a teenage girl standing beside her bicycle, confused and scared. HOA members stood nearby, whispering, convinced they were finally enforcing the rules. They believed they had power, authority, and the law on their side. What they didn't know was that this moment would unravel everything they thought they controlled. The girl's mother watched from the porch, heart racing but face calm. She didn't shout. She didn't panic. She simply asked one quiet question that no one bothered to answer. The HOA president smirked, certain this was a victory. The officers followed procedure, unaware of the mistake unfolding in real time. As neighbors pulled out phones and rumors spread, the girl looked toward her mother for reassurance. The mother nodded gently, as if telling her to stay calm. Because she knew something they didn't. And when the truth surfaced, it would turn this entire situation upside down. The HOA president insisted the arrest was necessary, claiming the girl trespassed repeatedly despite written warnings. Papers were waved around like proof, though no one had actually read them carefully. The officers hesitated, sensing tension, but the complaint seemed official enough to proceed. The mother finally stepped off the porch, her voice steady, asking if the officers had verified the complaint fully. Her tone wasn't defensive. It was controlled, confident, almost unsettling. One officer paused, asking for identification. She handed it over without hesitation. The HOA president rolled her eyes, muttering that rules apply to everyone. Neighbors nodded along, convinced they were witnessing justice. The girl's hands trembled, but she stood still, trusting her mother completely. As the officer studied the ID, his expression shifted slightly. He checked it again, then looked back at the mother. Something wasn't adding up. The street grew quieter. Even the HOA president stopped talking. The mother met the officer's eyes calmly. She hadn't revealed anything yet, but the moment was close. What looked like a simple HOA enforcement was about to become a professional embarrassment. And the people who pushed this situation forward were seconds away from realizing just how badly they misjudged her. The officer stepped aside and quietly called for verification, his voice low but urgent. The HOA president crossed her arms, annoyed by the delay, confident it would change nothing. She believed authority was on her side, as it always had been before. The girl was gently uncuffed while the call continued. Confusion spread through the crowd as murmurs replaced certainty. Neighbors exchanged uneasy looks, sensing the shift in momentum. This was no longer routine. When the officer returned, his posture had changed. He addressed the mother with respect now, addressing her by title instead of name. That single word sent a ripple through everyone listening. The HOA president laughed nervously. Assuming it was a mistake, but it wasn't. The mother was not just a concerned parent. She was a federal U.S. Marshal, currently active, with jurisdiction that extended far beyond a neighborhood association. The officer explained carefully, apologizing for the misunderstanding. Silence fell hard. Phones lowered. Smiles vanished. The HOA president's face drained of color as reality set in. This wasn't a rule violation anymore. It was a serious error. And the consequences were only beginning. The officers immediately reversed course, issuing a formal apology to both mother and daughter. The girl was reassured gently, her fear slowly giving way to relief. The mother placed a hand on her shoulder, steady and protective. The HOA president tried to speak, but her words tangled. She claimed she didn't know that rules were rules. But no one was listening now. The neighbors who once supported her avoided eye contact, suddenly aware of how quickly assumptions had led them astray. The mother didn't raise her voice. She didn't threaten. She simply asked for documentation, records, and an explanation of why a minor had been detained over an HOA complaint. Each question landed heavier than the last. The officers remained professional, but firm. The situation was now being documented properly. What started as intimidation had turned into accountability. The HOA board members whispered urgently among themselves, realizing this incident would not stay private. The neighborhood's reputation, once pristine, now felt fragile. As the sun dipped slightly lower, one thing became clear: power had shifted. And the people who abused it were about to face consequences far beyond a simple apology. Within days, formal complaints were filed, not in anger, but with precision. The mother understood systems better than anyone there. Every step followed protocol. Every statement was factual. That made it impossible to ignore. The HOA scrambled to respond, releasing vague statements about misunderstandings and procedural errors. But the damage was done. Neighbors began questioning past fines, warnings, and threats they had quietly accepted before. The girl returned to her routine, but the experience had changed her. She walked with her head higher now, knowing her mother's calm strength had protected her when authority failed. An emergency HOA meeting was called. Attendance was higher than ever. Questions filled the room. The president struggled to defend actions that now looked reckless and cruel. Resignation rumors spread quickly. Trust evaporated faster than anyone expected. What once felt like control now looked like overreach. The mother never attended the meeting. She didn't need to. The truth was already loud enough. And for the HOA, this story was no longer about rules. It was about consequences that couldn't be ignored. The HOA president stepped down quietly a week later, citing personal reasons. Few believed it. New leadership promised transparency and change. Though skepticism lingered, the neighborhood slowly returned to normal, but something fundamental had shifted. People spoke up more. Questions were asked. Blind obedience faded. The girl smiled more easily again, her laughter returning to the street. What could have been trauma became a lesson instead. She learned that calm strength could be more powerful than shouting. The mother watched from a distance, proud but reflective. She never sought recognition. She only wanted her child safe and treated fairly. The badge she carried wasn't about power. It was about responsibility. Neighbors who once judged now nodded respectfully when passing by. Some apologized quietly. She accepted them without resentment. The incident became a quiet legend, shared cautiously, reminding everyone that authority should always be questioned respectfully. And while the street looked the same, the understanding between its residents had changed forever. Months later, the story still lingered, not as gossip, but as a reminder. The HOA functioned differently now, with caution and humility guiding decisions. No one forgot how quickly power collapsed when misused. The girl rode her bike freely again, no fear following her. The sidewalk that once felt threatening now felt ordinary, safe. Justice hadn't shouted. It had simply stood firm. The mother stored the paperwork away, hoping never to need it again. She believed lessons mattered more than punishment. And this neighborhood had learned one it wouldn't forget. What began as intimidation ended in revelation. The truth had been hidden in plain sight, waiting for the right moment to surface, and that was the final twist in this unbelievable HOA story. If you loved the drama, don't forget to like, subscribe, and drop a comment sharing your thoughts. It really helps this channel grow.